How are you, dear students? Our lesson today is divide rectangles into equal squares. Divide rectangles into equal squares. Pages 885 and 886. Let's start with this video.
The essential understanding for this lesson is, a rectangle can be divided into rows and columns of squares that are all the same size. You can count or add in different ways to find the total number of squares. Previously, students used equal shares to divide rectangles and circles into halves and fourths. In this lesson, students cover rectangles with square tiles arranged in rows and columns, and then count or use repeated addition to find the total number of squares. In this problem, students are shown a rectangle that is divided into rows and columns. This problem is key because students count and use repeated addition to find the total number of equal squares in the rectangle. Listen and look for students who begin by counting how many squares are in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since there are 4 rows, they add 5 4 times. So, there are 20 equal squares in this rectangle. Listen and look for other students who begin by counting how many squares are in each column. 1, 2, 3, 4. Since there are 5 columns, they add 4 5 times. These students also find that there are 20 equal squares in the rectangle. Have students share their work to see that they can count and add in different ways to find the total squares in a rectangle that is divided into rows and columns. Developing this understanding will help students later on as they use repeated addition to find the total objects in an array and connect multiplication to repeated addition.
So, dear students, with our first question here, use square tiles to cover each rectangle and trace the tiles and count the squares. Here, we want to use square tiles to cover each rectangle. We'll start with the first one here, like this. We'll divide it into some squares and another rectangle. The same idea, we will divide it into some squares. And here we want to add by rows. We want to add by rows. How many rows you have here? Let's count them. We have here 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we will use repeated addition 4 times here. How many squares in each row? Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we will add 5 4 times. So we will write here 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, which equal 20. Excellent. Here we use rows. What about columns? How many columns we have here? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we will add number 5 times. What is this number? Let's count square in each column. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we will add 4 5 times. So you will write here 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, 5 times, which equal 20. So here 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 equal 20, and if you add by columns it will be 20 also. Another question here. We want to add by rows. The same idea. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will add 4 4 times. It will be 4 plus 4 plus 4, which equals 16. What about columns? It will be the same. Excellent. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which equals 16. The same number. Another question here. Draw a rectangle that is divided into 6 equal squares. So we should draw a rectangle and divide it into 6 equal squares, like this one. Rectangle, and divided it into 6 squares. Another video, listen to it carefully.
How many red squares can cover this rectangle? Begin like this. Not like this. Why must the squares be laid out the way they are in the top rectangle? The squares must be laid out the way they are in the top rectangle because the goal is to find the total number of red squares that exactly cover the rectangle, so there can be no gaps or overlaps. Count. Each row has 4 squares. How many rows are there?
Select your answer.
There are 3 rows. You can add the squares by rows. How many squares in all? 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 12. There are 12 squares in all.
There is another way to count the squares.
Count. Each column has 3 squares. How many columns are there? There are 4 columns. You can add the squares by columns. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. There are 12 squares in all. Now you know how you can divide rectangles into equal squares.
So, dear students, with another question here, Lisa bakes cornbread. She cuts it into equal square pieces. How many equal squares do you see? Write two equations to show the total number of squares pieces. Here we want to write two equations. The first one by rows and the second one by columns. By rows, how many rows you have here? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And each row, how many squares? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you will add 4 6 times. So here 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which equal, excellent, 24. What about columns? Here, how many columns you have here? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And each one, how many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you will add 6 4 times. 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, which equal 24 also. So our answer here will be 24 if you add 4 6 times by rows, or it will be 24 if you add 6 4 times by columns. Another question, label the columns and rows for the large square blue. Here, what is this? Is that columns or rows? Excellent, it's row. And here, that's what? Columns. So this one is rows, and here columns. Another question, look at the large square in item 7, this one. Large square. What do you notice about the number of rows and the number of columns? And explain. Look here. What is the number of rows here? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3. What is the number of columns? 1, 2, 3. They are the same. So it's what? It's a square. All sides are equal. So here, the number of rows and columns is equal because it's a square. In a square, all sides are the same length. All sides are the same length. Another question. Count the equal squares in the rows and columns of the rectangle. Then use the numbers on the cards to write the missing numbers in the equation. Here, how many rows? 2. In each one, how many squares? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. So here you can add 7 and 7. It will be 7 plus 7. So you can write here 7 and here 7, which equal 14. So we use this card and this card. Here 7 plus 7, which equal 14. What about columns? How many columns here? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In each column, how many squares? 1, 2. So you will add 2 7 times. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, which equal, excellent, 14 also. So here we write 7 plus 7, which equal 14, or you can write 2 7 times, which equal 14. Thank you, dear students. Don't forget our homework, pages 887 and 888. See you tomorrow.